there's something left over. And this event is also going to end, and the leftover is the waste. So I decided that I will speak on waste today. I do work on waste and environment and climate change, but today I'm focusing more on waste. The organizers requested that this is one of the biggest problems identified in more recent years by different surveys that has taken place in the country. So you're going to hear a lot of garbage and about garbage. What I call, in the last year I gave another TED talk. There is great sensitivity to waste among people. Be it schools, be it colleges, institutions. People like Narayan Murthy and Ajim Premji are very, very excited about waste, what is happening. They are part of the Bangalore Agenda Task Force, which went on to formulate a strategy on waste management for Bangalore. So it's the kind of people who have been talking about waste, involved in it. But I also must say it's a boring subject. It's not an interesting subject. But in spite of all that, it's remained a very important, pertinent subject affecting public health and environment. And more recently, if you believe the Interpanel on Climate Change, a huge cause of greenhouse, 6 to 7% of greenhouse gas emissions are happening because of bad waste management. And in India, that percentage is calculated somewhere between 4 to 6%. So waste alone is responsible for 4 to 6% of greenhouse gases in India. I've traveled to around, to give you just some personal introduction, I've traveled to around 200 plus municipalities in 5 continents, around 30 countries, covering Asia, Africa, Europe, America. And most of the interactions are limited to municipalities, the way they function, and a lot of civil society organizations like NGOs, corporate sectors who are into waste. And what I found out in the last 12 years, there are 7 common things, whether it's Africa or Asia, not Europe or America, which when you ask, why is my country so dirty? Why is not something happening? There is a need to do something about waste management. It's dirty, filthy. What do I do about it? And I came out with these 7 myths, or the 7 reasons that the municipalities would often cite that this is the reason why my country is dirty, or my municipality is dirty, my neighborhood is dirty, my community is dirty. And I'm going to bust those 7 myths, whether they are true or not. So you go and probably ask the commissioner of Kakinada municipality and ask, why is the municipality not clean? Why my town is not clean? The first answer probably will receive, I need more money, I need more staff. And if you see, go 10 years back, people who have stayed in Kakinada for the, say in 2000, was your city cleaner now or then? And probably my guess is that you are not going to find a huge difference in terms of cleanliness. It has stayed more or less. But if you see the budget of Kakinada, what it was in 2000 and what it is in 2012, there's a huge difference. More money has come, but more money and more staff has not led to more cleanliness for the city. So that certainly doesn't seem to be the reason. I'll give you examples of 5 cleanest cities of India. Let us talk about the 20 cleanest cities of the world, but 5 cleanest cities of India. The first one, the dirtiest city under S.R. Rao. Then came Suryapet in Andhra Pradesh. Then came Nagpur. Then came Namakkal. Then came Latur. And those who have studied these 5 cities, they'll tell you that none of these 5 cities ever received any extra grant, any extra state aid, or extra staff. They organized their work in a way that it became cleaner. And if you see another research such, and very pertinently with very hard management, is actually not about waste. It is all about. So if you are able to click on the management right way, your waste is managed much better. Today, 35% of the municipal staff inefficient. A similar percentage do not report to work, but they do sign on the roster. So if that is the level of efficiency and quality, your cities are not going to be clean. So more is the problem. The problem lies somewhere else. It lies with commitment, honesty, incorruptibility, uprightness, and probably a little bit of passion that I want to keep my city clean. That's where I started talking about solution to they have a technology, take all the waste and do something about it. Say, for example, under S.R. Rao. Then came Suryapet in Andhra Pradesh. Then came Nagpur. Then came Namakkal. Then came Latur. And those who have studied these 5 cities, they will tell you that none of these 5 cities ever received any extra grant, any extra state aid or extra staff. They organized their work in a way that it became cleaner. And if you see another research such, and very pertinently with very hardcore data, that waste management is actually not about waste. It is all about man management. So if you are able to click on the man management right way, your waste is managed much better. Today, 35% of the municipal staff are inefficient. A similar percentage do not report to work, but they do sign on the roster. So if that is the level of efficiency and quality, your cities are not going to be clean. So more staff and more money doesn't solve the problem. The problem lies somewhere else. It lies with commitment, honesty, incorruptibility, uprightness, and probably a little bit of passion that I want to keep my city clean. That's where the other thing, the municipalities will come, particularly the big municipalities. Nowadays, even the smaller municipalities of the size of 3 to 5 lakh have started talking about magic solutions. They want a magic solution to their waste problem. Can I have a technology which can just take all the waste and do something about it? Say, for example, incinerate it, burn it, and produce electricity. There is a lot of talks in the developing countries now about magic solutions. Or something also what I call bigger is better. So you have installed this kind of incineration plants which do work in Europe and other developed countries, but not in developing countries, and they want to import all this kind of technology and burn the waste and produce 6 megawatt or 8 megawatt of electricity. Let me give you some examples just to clarify the point whether this is a myth or a reality. In 1989, India had its first experience with burn technology in Delhi in Timapur. They just wasted 120 million rupees putting the technology which did not even work for 6 days. Not even it failed at the trial stage. Andhra Pradesh was the next to experiment with 5 RDF plant, refuse derived fuel. It's a kind of technology where you turn waste into a pellet, kind of coal, and then you burn it into incineration to produce electricity. All those 5 failed. The Supreme Court of India put a ban on any kind of subsidy on this kind of plant under waste to energy. The other one was 140 million INR in Lucknow, a biomethanization plant of 300 metric tons. It did not even start. Forget about running it, it did not even start. They had to use additional diesel to start the machine. So the bigger is better, or the magic solution doesn't work in countries like India. The simple reason being that our climate, our waste we cannot produce waste out of we cannot produce electricity out of waste. So the bigger, better solution or the magic solution doesn't work. But the municipality will give you this second myth. I want a technology which can take up all the waste and solve my problem. Myth number 3. Today there is a lot of talk, probably it's a little difficult for some of you to understand. They talk about end-of-pipe solutions or cradle-to-grave solutions, integrated solid waste management solutions. Like they want to hire a company which can collect the waste, transport the waste, process the waste, dispose the waste, and everything is gone. So the municipality doesn't have to deal with many players, but just one player who provides every kind of solutions related to waste management. And what they do? they invite very large companies. In India, Chennai had the first experience inviting Onyx, which created such a mess in Chennai that they had to Jayalalitha finally had to throw the company out called Onyx. So there is another myth that a bigger company will be able to provide them a good waste management system. Doesn't work. The 5-city example that I gave you from Surat to Surapet, nowadays Babli, another city in Andhra Pradesh again, which has become a model, doesn't employ any of the large companies. They just rely on local players. Very small contractors, self-help group of women, very, very local people who understand the waste situation much better than a company from outside can come and understand it. That's the third myth, that large companies providing end-of-pipe solutions will be able to clean up your city. It hasn't worked in India as far as now. Probably what you can recognize, they are the waste pickers. Apparently there are 1 million plus waste pickers in India. They live off waste. They earn their livelihood for their families by picking waste. Currently 15 to 20% of the municipal waste is picked by the waste pickers in different cities. That means 15 to 20% of the transportation and collection cost, which would have been probably spent by the municipality, is saved because of the work that they do freely at the cost of their own health. Not just that, each waste picker, when he recycles a certain amount of waste in a year-to-year basis, he saves 140 tons of greenhouse gases or CO2 per year for himself. So every time we make a waste, these guys basically compensate by recycling it. And nobody actually protects them. The municipality is not interested in protecting them. The government policies are not supporting them. They are called, if you see the terms that they have been addressed in media, scavengers, waste pickers, rat pickers, waste collectors, they don't even have a decent term for these recyclers to address them. And they save 15 to 20% of the municipal budget just by picking waste. They are our best resource, which has so far gone utilized, except in one city called Latur, where they organized 240 waste pickers, gave them the contract under an NGO, and that city went on to become the cleanest city in 2008, winning Sant Gadge Baba Award. There's another thing about these guys. There have been several studies which have been done post-1990s till now, not just in India, but there has been a study which was done by German technical assistants and across 5 countries, including India, which says they are much better managers of waste than the municipalities. They exactly know what to pick and what not to pick, what could be recycled, what cannot be recycled, and what is the value of that recycling material. So if municipality just motivates them, if you do just organize them, mobilize them, motivate them, you just don't harass them, they can actually save more than 20% of your budget in collection and recycling. The group of women who are doing sorting, they exactly know what are the 22 different kind of plastics which can be sorted and sold. Probably none of us know. I call them our first environmentalists. What I talk about, they do it every day. Myth number 5. So myth number 4 was the way people perceive the work of the waste picker. Myth number 5, none of the municipalities in India except Surat have really experimented with penalty for littering, but in particular or waste collection. But if you look that why municipalities fail to penalize people for littering, this is something everybody knows, everybody says that littering is bad, but municipalities don't penalize. All the municipalities, the 70 municipalities that I went into India, They said that our elected representatives are very, very abhorrent to the idea of penalty. They just don't support it. They say it's very unpopular, it doesn't suit our vote bank. So we cannot do this. It's just, but look at one example, the closest at home, besides Surat, Singapore. It's supposed to be the cleanest country in the world. As a country, as a city, there are many others. But Singapore is the cleanest country in the world. Why is that so? Are the people more educated than us? Are they more civilized than us? Are they more disciplined than us? No. No, not even in 1960s they were not even today in terms of education. What prevents them from littering is the sheer fear of penalty. You may end up paying 3 times of your daily wage if you litter. Even people are scared to spit on the road, which we do so freely over here. So penalty is the best form of awareness that I believe that works in countries which are not fully democratic, which are still in the process of being democratized. It works. And this is something not wrong. I'm committing a wrong and I'm getting penalized for it. Like violating a traffic. When you violate a traffic rule, you get penalized. It's something like that. But municipalities and elected representatives, the municipal councillors or corporates, whatever they are called in different parts of the country, they will not support it. That's the myth number 5. Myth number 6. If you ask that solid waste management is a service people should pay for, municipality will say, no, people don't want to pay. The elected representatives say, no, we can't have more taxes on the people. That's not good. That's not good. And again, the vote bank. Mr. Srikanth has gone, otherwise I would give some more examples how it is happening in other places. In most of the countries where the cities are cleanest, people pay a tax for waste collection. Forget about processing and disposal. They will pay for the basic waste collection based on how much you generate. But in India, why people fail to pay? Or people where they are paying are cleaner? The reason is the quality and the efficiency of the waste collection service is directly linked with your willingness to pay. If a municipality or a private contractor or an NGO is providing efficient and quality services, they are reporting 92% of fee collection in a city like Saharanpur in UP. In a city like Latur, they went up to 82. In Bundhana, they have 100% collection of service fee. Municipality doesn't spend even a single penny on collection in Bundhana. People give 30 rupees. 1 rupees a day keeps the doctor away. That's the slogan. In Sikkim and Gangtok, 1 rupees a day keeps the doctor away. Because at the end of the day, you end up probably paying more to the doctor for health reasons than you pay for the service and you keep your neighborhood clean. So municipalities have to make sure that the quality and the efficiency of the services are such that people willingly pay. Finally, corruption versus cleanliness. The 5 city example that I gave, and I'll give you more examples from around the world. Adelaide, Calgary, Helsinki, Oslo, Kobe, Osaka, Honolulu. These are the top 20 cleanest cities in the world. Except Japan, none of the Asian countries figure in that. Except Japan. Couple of cities in Japan and all European and American countries. What could be the reason, possible reason that they have the cleanest city, and in some cases we have per head more budget than those municipalities, in some cases, not all. The interesting comparison is, these are also the 20 least corrupt countries, which are the cleanest countries, both at the local level as well as the higher level. So the corruption has a direct link with your cleanliness. The more corrupt the municipality or the state or the central government is, the less clean that country, that state and that municipality will be. Whether it's Africa or Asia or India, it doesn't matter. It has a direct relationship with corruption and cleanliness. So it won't be worthwhile just to tell you that this is what the 7 myths are and the municipalities are propagating it. Probably it will help a little bit if I can share some of my knowledge, some of my actions, to request you to do 7 things that could probably help Kakinada or Andhra Pradesh do and reduce waste. If we can just keep the waste at home, segregated, it is said that half of our problem is solved. If you, those who have been to these 20 cleanest cities and you ask them, how did you do it? So they'll say, let's talk. So let's talk like a campaigner. Talk about waste. Just interrogate the person. Hey, don't throw that. That's dirty. Hey, don't spit there. That's dirty. Hey, keep it segregated. That's what you should do. Talk like a campaigner. Talk to one, talk to everyone. And as somebody rightly said here, ask what your municipality is doing. Who is the person responsible for collecting waste from my house? If it tends to use an RTI, do that. You have a right to do that. You have to ask questions, uncomfortable questions. Who is the staff for my area? What is his job? When he is coming? What duty time he has been given? Unless you yourself do your duties of asking those questions, the municipality is not going to perform well. After all, they belong to the same civil society that we are. So they are not a different species to get enlightened and do the jobs good. Keep their organics. Simply keeping the plastic, paper, glass, metal separated solves 50% of the problem. And the other 50% gets solved. If you have space, you can compost it. It's very, very simple. It's Kerala. It's not foreign country. That's how in Kerala people do compost. They made these beautiful pots in which they just put the organic waste, pre-cooked or post-cooked food. And within 3 to 4 months it becomes a compost manure, organic, and they use it in their own houses. Nowadays it's also sold at 7 to 8 rupees kg, and it's a new kind of business that has been coming up among the SHG groups in Kerala, particularly in Trivandrum. And it's also happening quite a lot, and government is promoting in Maharashtra. Reuse me. If possible, buy things which has less packaging. It's a little romantic, idealistic, but now we do have green stores where they use less and less packaging. The very fact that if you can carry a cloth or jute bag to vegetable market itself is a great contribution to reduce waste. Zero waste. What an idea, Sergi. How many of you have ever heard about a concept like zero waste? Anybody who has heard? Okay, none. Or did I see a hand? No. Well, that's what even I didn't know in 1996. The first zero waste university campus I created in Jawaharlal Nehru University in 1996. I took the initiative. I spoke to the Vice Chancellor, I spoke to the administrative staff, teaching, student union, to reduce 42% of waste through recycling and composting. In the year 2, we reached 82% going for disposal. Before that, everything was disposed. Now there are 80 people who have got job because of this waste that we create every day in JNU. My second stint came with the first ISO 14001 certification municipality in waste management, Suryapet. I visited Suryapet in 2002. There was a commissioner called S.A. Khader, whom I supported in developing a plan and a strategy to create a zero waste town. The municipality went on to win the silver medal in Good Governance India. It was selected as one of the best 100 best case studies in solid waste management by United Nations Habitat Program. And then it became the ISO 14001 certified solid waste management system. And the third that more recently that I have been doing is in Bubbly. Last year I visited, we have created a national solid waste management park. And we have taken a decision, no more disposal. Zero dumping. We will not dump anything. If we don't, we can't reuse it, we can't recycle it, we can't compost it. We will simply keep it till we find a solution to that. Today, 4.5 tons of waste that is generated by 60,000 population of Bubbly city is 82 to 85% recycled or composted. 14 cubic meter of methane saved every day by the rock pickers, and the rest is being stored. And it has India's first national solid waste management park. And you know what a park is. It's a place for recreation, reuse. So anything that comes there is either recreated into something, reused for something, and if fail to do that, we are storing it. So that's my story in waste management. Thank you.